Good morning. It's a real pleasure for us to present a 2 years project that began in April 1st. And the name is the Stock Flow Consistent Model of Energy Transition. We aim to contribute to design and management of economic policy in Ecuador. The coordinator of this project is the Professor Fernando Martin, who is next to me. And the project team is the Professor Zezza, Juliana Toshiro, Francisco Rosales, who is in Ecuador. The assistant is Enma Arboleda, and me, subcoordinator Grace Llerena. This project has an important motivation. I want to show 7 important motivations about this project in Ecuador. As you know, Ecuador has been dollarized from 26 years. In fact, dollarized market, its 26th anniversary on January 1st, but it's not the only country that use a dollar as a legal currency. Panama used it by 1904 and Salvador since 2001. But it's very little rigorous theoretical reflection has been carried out about the structure of the dollarize, how it's a macroeconomic function in a dollarized economy. And then widespread acceptance dollarize is a synonymous of wide total loss of monetary sovereignty, but this leads to the belief that fiscal policy is the only tool that we can use to macroeconomic stabilization. But it's not only the macroeconomic view that is important. It's important to discuss also the pressure of the use of natural resources, because Ecuador is exporting commodities and is an open economy in a commodity exporting country with a low public and private investment affected by climate change, like droughts and the El Niño phenomenon. And it happens that dollarization acts as short-term restraint jacket and a constraint and medium and long-term growth. The general objective of this project is to develop a stock flow consistent model for this country that is small, open, and dollarized economic, such as Ecuador, in terms of monetary and fiscal flows. And we have 2 specific objectives. The first one is to generate economic policy scenarios in various areas, and some in monetary, fiscal, and trade-related areas, as example. And the second specific objective is to develop an ecological stock flow consistent model that enables us to generate scenarios related to climate change impacts, sustainable finance, and related areas that we are going to discuss with Juliana and Francisco Rosales. The strategic partner of this project is Ecuador's Ministry of Economic and Finance, is our important partner to develop that, because we need actually data and many contacts to get this data. We have this research output. In the first part of the project, we have initial report that is a literature review and review of the methodological state of the art. In this case, we are going to present the bibliometrics analysis as a result, then a methodological proposal for developing the stock flow consistent model that is going to present a theoretical discuss or approach, the Professor Fernando Martin, then a preliminary model, description, balance sheet, transaction matrix, and behavioral equation that we are going to develop. And the second years, we are working about a contrafactual scenario simulation, and then something that can use the Ecuadorian ministry, the Economic and Finance Ministry, that is development of application for the use of them. Well, I'm going to talk about the bibliometric analysis and some output research. First of all, bibliometric analysis presents a comprehensive bibliometric of stock flow consistent models with the aim to identify their thematic, methodological, and structural evolution from the origins up to June 2025. By the paper, we are going to update these results because the paper is, some papers are publishing up to December, and we need to update, those are publishing in January. We have a corpus contribution and data mining. We have a primary source, that is the Elsevier Scopus database, was chosen for its broad covers of heterodox economics and social science studies. Then search equation is a precise Boolean and string was used many times of right stock flow consistent. And we have also exclusion criteria. It is vital to mention rigorous negative filters we apply to exclude the false positives. We use and, not, or. We have something important tools we use. The first of all is the Scopus that have a data extraction, and we have key results, high quality base of 360 documents manually added, 11 seminal works, including works by Godley and Lavoie on the base corpus suggested by Professor Juneno Toshiro. And we use another tools with both viewer to have a primary function in the study case, what is called occurrence analysis. And we identify on the 5 thematic clusters, we show you in a moment, and a bibliometric analysis, which is a R command, and that get a performance analysis. The key result is graphs and annual production, and outer trajectories. Well, you can see the network that has 5 clusters. The first one is green, that you can show it there. The central theme is distribution and fiscally. There are key concepts. The results is the fiscal policy, inflation, income distribution, some representative authors like Lavoie. Current relevance is analyze post-COVID inflation and equality. We have the red cluster color that show finance and cycles as a central theme. Key concepts like financial instability, Minsky debt, banking. Representative authors, the Professor Zezza. Like example, current relevance is monitoring private debt and bubbles. In the blue cluster color, the central theme is ecology and climate. The key concept is climate change, green finance, emission, and representative authors are many: the Farners, Nicolaidi, Monasterolo. Very high importance, the area of highest bibliometric growth. And in the purple color of this network is monetary theory that has key concept, endogenous money, liquidity preference, some representative authors that Godley, Lavoie, Rochon, and current relevance about the theoretical basis on banking operation. And the last one is yellow cluster colors that show us the methodological and energy, and has key concepts like input-output analysis, energy policy simulation. We have representative authors like J. Jackson, Valdelcantos, and current relevance like analysis of supply chain and transition. And we have a trajectory of scientific production from latency to exponentially, and we have two figures. And the first one, you have 3 periods, I think 3 important periods: 1970 to 206, a period of incubation that insulate theoretical development resistant to mainstream. And we have a bibliographic milestone like Godley encrypts in 1983. The second period it's 2007 to 2014. It's take up in this space. responds to the global finance crisis and empirical validation. And we have a bibliometric milestone, Goldie and Lavoie, in 2007, in monetary economics. And in the last period, I think the most important that all are contribute to publish them, it's 2015, 2025. That is expansion, like you show in this figure. It responds to diversification into ecological inequality and ABM hybridation. And bibliometric milestone is the Farnos 2016 and ecological stock flow consistent. And then we are going to introduce the next methodological proposal to development the stock flow consistent, because we search the change to contribute to the theoretical approach. Then we are going to present Fernando Martin, that's going to talk about this part.
We are a team, a research team, and each one is researching different things. So I came here because I was a few days ago in Spain, and I accompanied Grace to make this exercise. I'm working right now in improving the theoretical framework of this paper, which is one of the papers that we are going to develop in this project. In total, we have 2 papers and a book, what we have to accomplish, together with many other things with the ministry, to raise a lot of data for Ecuador to update what Gennaro has done in the past in Ecuador. So I'm here only to speak very few slices about this paper, which is called Liquidity Preferences and Policy Sovereignty in a Small Open Dollarized Economy. As Grace said, this study tried to analyze how liquidity preferences constrain monetary and fiscal policy in a small, open, and dollarized economy. I will read because it's going to be easier for you and for me to express my ideas, and then I won't improvise too much. The key motivation comes from countries like Ecuador, where the absence of a national currency fundamentally alters how liquidity circulates and how policy is transmitted. Our contribution is twofold. Conceptually, it extends liquidity preference to internal money substitution, and analytically, we embed this mechanism in a SFC framework. Why liquidity preferences matters? Following Keynes, liquidity preference reflects how agents allocate wealth under fundamental uncertainty. Economic agents do not know the probability distribution of future events, like, for example, financial crises, banking freezes, or sudden recessions. In such contexts, holding liquid assets like cash become a form of self-insurance. In Keynes' original framework, liquidity preference mainly takes the form of substituting bonds for money. And although Keynes defined money as including both cash and deposits, he does not explicitly analyze substitution within money itself. This omission, we believe, becomes a critical issue in a dollarized economy. Why dollarized economy are different? We don't have, in a fully dollarized economy, there is a very limited monetary sovereignty. The central bank cannot issue its own currency. Liquidity is not a purely domestic object. It depends on international reserves, external payments, and confidence. This changes the nature of liquidity preference and its macroeconomic consequences. Next one, please.
Yeah.
Therefore, we propose an extension of liquidity preference. Households do not only substitute bonds for money, but also cash for deposits. When households perceive worsening economic conditions, they withdraw deposits and hoard money that accumulate cash, even at the cost of foregone interest. The internal substitution becomes a powerful macroeconomic signal of uncertainty. So in a monetary economy, these circuits starts with bank credits to firms, credit finance production, production pay wages that generate income. Income generates demand, and firms repay loans. So this is the monetary circuits that is in the center of this behavioral economics or behavior of this behavior. The continuity of the circuit depends on money circulating rather than being hoarded. What happens to the monetary circuit when agents hoard liquidity? In particular, when households increase their preferences for cash, money leaks out of circulation. Consumption falls, inventories accumulate, firms' revenues decline, and loan repayment becomes fragile. Liquidity preference thus disrupt the endogenous money circuit and breaks the circular flow of income and expenditure, amplifying the downturns. And this has obviously policy implications, which is the next one. When liquidity leaks intensify, the central bank loses its ability to stabilize interest rate and support fiscal policy. As a result, both monetary and fiscal tools become pro-cyclical rather than counter-cyclical. This has direct implications for investment, employment, and long-run growth. So those ideas are the ones that we are going to model in a stock flow consistent model, but also taking into account another dimensions, which are very important for Ecuador as a dollarized economy, because we have placed in a very important as an important matter for our study three channels of vulnerability for our economy. And these channels are in a way trying to say how this change in the liquidity preference translates into a loss of policy sovereignty in our country. The first one is the one that we have been talking so far, is the household liquidity preference. And this first channel, as I said before, is a behavioral channel where households increase their preferences for cash, money stops circulating, and puts pressure on international reserves. This is the first one. The second one is, or the second fragility channel is a structural one in this kind of economies. It is the high import content of production, where money exits, the domestic circuit to pay foreign producer. And the third channel of fragility is financial and it's very rigid because external debt service drains liquidity independently of domestic economic conditions. So we will take into account not the first one, the one we were talking before, but the three, because together these channels constrain the ability of the state to act counter-cyclically. What matters is not each channel in isolation, but the integration. When more than one channel operates simultaneously, the economic faces a binding liquidity constraint that limits monetary and fiscal policy. So this is the theoretical framework, and then we are going to translate all these ideas into a SFC model.
Well, we have many important theoretical issues to discuss and to trying to represent an accounting framework. We work it in the balance sheet matrix with the Professor Zezza and the transaction matrix too. And I have a resume that could be presented to you to begin to discuss, because this model is developing too, and we don't have yet any results because the data of Ecuador is actually updating in many national accounts. But it's important to discuss, I think, 3 dimensions. What type of model we need to use to represent Ecuadorian economy. I think the better model structure is about the structural links, stock flow consistent because explicit product sectors, and then we introduce 2 different households liquidity preference that I'm going to present you. I think it could interpretation that is full stock flow integration between real and financial sites. But why it is important to a dollarized economy? Because joint analysis of growth and distribution and external constraints. The productive structures is divided by primary the oil and not oil sector, secondary and tertiary sector. The first one is the most development. The secondary is less than the first one, and the tertiary is a few development. That allows us to produce production based on technical coefficients like Leontiev and Taylor, but it is important to understand that a productive structure because reveals important dependence and structural bottlenecks. In the case of households, we have 3 groups by propensity to consume: low, medium, and high. Why is it important? Because social classes with different behavior rules is necessary to understand the liquidity preference in Ecuador that is different than Keynesian's liquidity preference, because we use cash into cash and deposits, but in Ecuador we use a lot of cash in not only bonds and deposits. And I think it's the key of understand the liquidity preference in a dollarized economy is the use of the cash. That is most important than deposits. And we don't have the substitution of bonds and deposits. We have the substitution of deposits by cash. And then that contribution for dollarized captures real disturbance of heterogeneity. In the case of income and distribution, we will model the sectoral wage, taxes and transfers, because we have 3 groups of households, and give us a functional and personal income distribution embedded to macro circuit. But it's important in economy, in dollarized economy, because we can analyze inequality treated as a macroeconomic phenomenon. And then is other important theme that we need to discuss is household assets differential, like low propensity household that has cash, deposit, debt, and external sector and government bonds. Medium propensity households that has deposits and cash, and high propensity households that has cash and banks credit. Why it is important to analyze a dollarized economy? Because the portfolio composition determines vulnerability of a financial sector and fiscal multipliers. In the case of house, the cash holding is dominant asset to high propensity of households. For this reason, it's important to divide the group of households, and the contribution to economy, a dollarized economy, is the cash preference and place external shocks under dollarization, and credit concentrates among high propensity households, and allows to fragility, to understand financial fragility without a lender of last resort. And in the case of financial system, we have intermediation between deposit credits and bonds. We have endogenous credit under balance sheet constraint, but it's important to understand the fragility of financial intermediation in dollarized regimes. In the case of government, like all government spending, we have revenues, budget like dissection, bonds, and as deposits at the central bank like international reserves. It has active fiscal policy and applied and partial monetary sovereignty. And in this case, fiscal and monetary policies as the main macroeconomic stabilizers that has a government that has a dollarized economy. In the case of central bank that lost function like a lender of the last resort, has the role of take the international reserve, that is a mixture of government deposits and required reserve by the commercial banks, but could be take a role that no conventional lender of the last resort function. In the case of, and in the last one, the case of the rest of the world, that is, I think it's very important restriction to a dollarized economy. In this case, we have imports, external debt, and international reserves, and an external sector anchors the monetary system, and we could have problems of the global liquidity if don't manage correctly. I think for the time, we have some next steps because the project is development. We don't have yet any results because the macroeconomic data of Ecuador is changed the base year and mobility base years, and we have the next steps I'm going to present you. Systematize macroeconomic data using a moving base year and transform physical flows into monetary values using consistent price vector. That is an important issue that we have to for the next in this year. Conveyor sector physical input output flows into monetary transaction compatible with the stock flow consistent accounting framework, and then calibrate the stock flow consistent model by assigning empirical values to stock flows and behavioral parameters. What we are going to work to, and define exogenous shocks and behavioral rules consistent with the account structure. I need to specify liquidity principle dynamics about the three class of households: demand-led production, credit ratio, and fiscal reaction function, and then generate a comparative counterfactual scenario relative to benchmark trajectory, assess macroeconomic stability, reserve dynamics, and all the things that we need to aim accomplish the policy of macroeconomic results.
This is going to be another paper, of course, not the one we were presenting here.
Well, in this step of the project, we are working, and thanks for your attention. And welcome all questions and comments, recommendations soon.